I just saw the tomatoes and obviously the Italian in me. I was like,
I mean, other cultures have
hello,
tomatoes, though.
you're speaking my language.
Other cultures use
No,
tomatoes in
no,
cooking.
they
Every
don't.
time I've spoken French in the last 2 days or whenever it was, I thought about you guys. Like
You know,
today,
I
Because of that
I
only
was
one text
just,
complaining.
message and that
I,
one text message.
I
I was
only,
complaining in French today, and I was like, they would love this.
Yeah.
I didn't know gommage was a real word.
Gamage.
Yes.
I had no idea. I thought it was a word used in the game.
I know. I love, like, I have to say, French swearing is so fun.
It's like wiping your ass with silk.
Yeah, I guess so. And then, like, Quebecois is like a dirtier, silkier towel. The French
All
is
right,
even
then.
more or more rough.
All right.
Hello,
The
everyone.
Merovingian over here.
What?
Oh, man.
What's a
Matrix.
He's making a
Merovingian?
Matrix.
The Merovingian literally says, "Oh, I
Reloaded.
love cursing in French. It's like wiping your ass with silk." I thought
I
you
didn't
actually
get
thought.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I thought
You're
you
like,
were being serious. I
well,
was
you
like, yeah,
know,
that makes sense. Actually,
that makes
that's very
sense.
poetic.
Wow.
You know me, the poet.
Maybe you wrote a book, perhaps.
Maybe you did.
Welcome, everybody, to the Death of the Author live show by Nettie Okorafor. Alrighty, let's get into it.
Okay.
Who wants to give the synopsis?
It was my pick, so I'll try.
Okay.
We trust you.
So, this book is very interesting. The basic synopsis of the book is that our main character, Zulu, is in a wheelchair from a childhood accident and is a professor teaching writing courses. And at her sister's wedding, she gets fired from her job, and that her book that she's currently trying to publish is going absolutely nowhere. And so she gets high as a kite and writes a science fiction book. And this science fiction book called Rusted Robots skyrockets her to fame. And the book is about that story, and we get interstitial stories within this book of interviews with her family and also chapters of the actual Rusted Robots book itself. This book goes places. It's certainly probably unlike anything we've read yet. And I would be curious to hear what you guys thought of this book.
Okay, Bobby, give your rating first.
My rating?
Yeah.
I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think that, especially, I think the middle portion of the book, I think is really excellent and really was something that was really keeping me engaged and really driving through the story. I have some stuff with like the beginning and the end that I have nitpicks about, or just I think some of the narrative stuff doesn't quite pay off or land the way I think she's hoping that it lands. But overall, I thought it was a really great reading experience. I felt connected to the characters, and I really liked the sort of back and forth between the two separate kind of stories that were being told.
Justin?
I gave this book 3.5 stars.
Okay.
I thought I echo a lot of Bobby's points. I think the ending kind of doesn't hit home for me in the way that, like Bobby said, that she's intending. And there were parts I was very engaged with this book for a lot of the time. I just did not really love all of the characters as much as I was hoping. So I'll say 3.5 stars. An enjoyable read, but not as high as I was hoping.
Okay, I gave it a 4, so we're all relatively within the same range, which makes me so happy. I feel like this is the first time
At least
that
the first
we've
time in a
all
while.
we've
First
all
time in a while.
agreed. Yeah, I guess the first time in a while that we've all agreed. It's not the first book.
First time since I think one night in Montreal, last night in Montreal.
Last night in Montreal, or the Nat Cassidy one. I think we all liked too.
We all
I mean,
liked it, but we weren't as close on
Okay.
that one. I
I would-
definitely liked that a lot more
No,
than you guys.
I think you're both wrong. It's Bride, where we were all super negative on the book.
I feel
I'm talking
I
in a positive way, just
yeah, I wasn't even thinking about Brian at all. I wiped that from
Kelsey's
my
blocked
memory.
that from her brain because she
I
feels so
made,
mortified
I,
that she assigned it to us.
I made
I,
my friends read this vampire smut with a
in a
straight
way,
face.
I kind of wish we did like a vlog, and that could have been like my clickbait. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and I think I completely agree. I had to look up Reddit discussions today actually about the ending because I wasn't sure. Like I completely understood. I was like, wait a second, and you know
Mm.
me,
I think, to be
details. So
fair, that ending comes kind of out of nowhere. I don't feel like it.
yes and no, but I've read some interesting discussions that I want to bring up.
Okay.
Like 50 pages to go, I was like, wait a second.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
Megs.
Megs.
Um, about with like 50 pages to go, I was like, I think there's something going on here. And I ended up being right about it. But we could
You
get into the
guessed it?
yeah, I guessed it.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so one of my first questions is what did you think overall about the format of the novel? So the fact that without spoiling the ending, it's you think that it is a documentary style beginning portion with cutscenes of the book throughout the novel. So I'm curious about how you guys felt Nadia Corfor achieved whatever she was setting out in terms of format only.
Go ahead, Justin. You can go. Go.
Uh, I thought it was successful. I like books that try for something wild, or is definitely different type of format. I was never really taken out of the story. I'll amend that. I loved getting the rusted robots parts of this book. I thought that story was also super engaging. Having a dual narrative is a lot of fun. I thought the interviews were. It was an interesting idea. I just had no attachment to her family whatsoever. So when they were talking
Mm,
about their lives growing up, I was like, I honestly just don't give a shit about any
mm-hmm.
of this. And yeah, this is going to lead somewhere. But since it wasn't actually telling me where it was going to go, it kind of just, those parts kind of fell flat for me. But as far as the overall structure of the book and her going for it, A plus.
Yeah, I enjoyed the form quite a bit. I think that I agree. For the most part about the interview stuff, but just speaking on the form of it, not just how it went with the story, I think that um, it was also my least favorite part of the structure of the novel, mostly because it felt a little bit. There's this term in comedy, which is they say you put a hat on a hat. It's like you already have a thing and you're putting another thing on top of it because you think
Mm-hmm.
that'll make it funnier, but actually it's just like a little bit too much. And so I thought that the interviews, while once we get to the end of the book, make more sense to me why they're in the story and why
Mm-hmm.
they're so featured in the story. I still thought that was the one structural thing that I was most like, okay, I want to get through this so I can get back to the other stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it was the Rusted Robot stuff or the Zelu story, whichever one, I was more interested in those two parts than the interview part. Yeah.
I kind of agree. I think like the well, firstly, the first chapter and between the first chapter and the second chapter, I was like, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes from third person about Zelu to first person
Yeah.
perspective, right? So I was like, okay, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really understand what was happening. So I had to re listen to the first part because I was confused as to what the story was, right? So we were
Mm-hmm.
going from obviously a like, I'm trying to think of it in English, like a future present perspective, which is like it's the future of the rest of the chapters that we're reading from of
Mm-hmm.
Zelu specifically,
Right. The interview
but
stuff we're
it's
talking
the
about. Yeah.
present of
Mm-hmm.
that chapter, and then you're going back to a bit earlier. So that took me out for a couple of like seconds. I was like, wait, I don't really understand what's going here. And then I kind of got that it was going to be like a looking back at their famous family member
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. Uh, and then it took me, I think, a couple of chapters of the Rested Robots to actually care about what was going on in the Rested Robots. So similarly, like I like that she was playing with format, because obviously I think that's a theme with the death of the author, right? Is when the death of the author occurs when the audience takes on whatever they feel the book is, and so the author is no more, and sort of whatever the audience wishes the book to be. So I got that that was the purpose of it, and also meant to create this distance between you and Zelu by caring also about the Rested Robots chapters. But it did take me a bit of time to care about it. I was like, where's this going? Like, I don't really
Mm.
care. And then when it was talking about Ngozi and how they were preserving human stories and ideologies and stuff like that, I was starting to get it. And then when it turns into this, like, oh, AI potentially wrote this whole thing, you're like, oh my God, there wasn't an author the whole time. And so, like, I think that made the format make more sense to me at the end. Like, at the end, I was like, okay, I kind of appreciate what was being done here, but the beginning was a struggle to appreciate it. I think I always like this. I always enjoy like epistolary additions to books, and when books are told in different ways. But like, I think the finality of it at the end, I ended up appreciating it more, especially the Rusted Robot story.
So I guess I should ask. I feel like we really need to talk about the end of this book
I
first,
agree.
because there's no way to talk about the rest of the book without
I
talking about
agree.
the end of the book first. And
Because
what
even
we
when I was
all,
reading, I was like, what are we going to talk about really?
yeah, what we all, because I for me, I think the ending of the book is purposefully a little bit up to interpretation, right? I don't think she's concretely saying one thing or the other, because, and this is what I took from it, and we can talk about this, because a big one of the final lines, right, is that story, the creation flows both ways, right? That story flows both ways, right? So, I think that a little of this to me is, I don't feel as if, Zelu, the entire time we're reading her, is the subject of a novel, and Ankara, right, is the name of the arrested robot, right, is not, right, is not. I think, for me, having just, like, it's meant to be a both ways sort of situation. It's like they're both real and both fictional at the same time, like. And I think part of the epistolary nature, like the interview nature, is like, here is like a record of this woman who lived, that's being told by people, and that's sort of what the AI in the future is perceiving and using as sort of backstory. Because she does mention that, like, this character is named after, you know, um, the woman that she knew's like great grandmother, and all this kind of stuff. So, and she even says, like, her whole experience is like taking, she has all of human history and all of human writing in her database in some way, right? And she's sort of like playing, some of it, she was throwing away old stuff and creating new stuff, but, just like a real person, it's impossible to excise all of the stuff that you've read and taken in your life from what you're, if you're creating something, right? If you're writing something, right? All that stuff is going to leak into what you write. So I don't necessarily take it as one of them is real, one of them is fake. I take them as they're both kind of real, right? They're both kind of the stories of somebody that's really doing something, but kind of interpreted by the other uh, person, I guess. Both ways. Because I think it's very explicit when she says creation goes both ways. I feel like that is trying to tell us something. You
Yeah,
know?
well, it's the definition of the death of the author, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's that the story is real to the author, whatever they intended. As soon as it's out in the world, it doesn't matter anymore,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because every person is going to take a piece of the story. And that's one of the real life things that happens in the book, is that her book gets created into a movie, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very westernized, Americanized,
Yes.
um, and she struggles with that a lot, and that's what it is, right? It's that this was interpreted a different way. That it talks about fan fiction writing as well,
Mm-hmm.
what a story becomes once the author puts it out into the world. It becomes multiple things, and it's also a look at, I think, even historical documents, right? Like if a lot of queer history, it's like, oh, they were just two women that loved to live together for 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like
Right.
that's our interpretation, or historical interpretation of what it is, but the truth lies somewhere lost, right?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So so any person who reads anything, it's its own type of story. We might all agree on certain things, but the way people perceive things and the way people tell stories will always be different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that by showing the movie part, I think she made that a bit more clear to me, that it was like, okay, this is a like concrete example that like maybe we can understand reading this now, and
Mm-hmm.
not in the future. And then there's also the aspect of a very real possible death of the author artistically
Mm-hmm.
with the rise in AI as well, right?
Yeah.
So there's this
Obviously.
actual like concrete threat, that may or may not happen, that she's playing with, kind of. There's the death of authors in general because humans die in the Rest of Robots timeline, and then there's the death of the author actually, with this author putting something out into the world and witnessing it become bigger, I think, than she would have expected, and
Mm-hmm.
she's unable to control the narrative after that.
I took it literally because that's exactly what I was going to do this whole time. Is to me, I read this as, oh, she just wanted to put a cool twist on it, and everything you guys are saying makes total sense, and it could be that way. I think it's too literal for it not to be the way that.
I think it's also literal as well, right?
Like
That the author dies.
I think Zulu is 100% the novel, and that the robots are the one writing it, and so we're the entire time reading
Mhm.
the robots novel. Like, to me, when I read it, I didn't think that was up to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The rest of everything you're saying about what death of the author means and the title and the movie, like
Yeah,
that all
I think
makes
it's a play on
a bunch of
things.
it makes a bunch of sense. But when I was reading it, like with like 40 pages to go, I'm like, oh wow, we're really jumping the shark here.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mhm.
nothing that's happening now in Zulu's story makes any sense whatsoever. So for me, it was like a robot struggling to come up with the ending of a book, which happens to every author.
Yeah. So I want to tell you, I want to say, I think I didn't totally maybe communicate the best I could. Zelu's, it is a story, right?
Yeah.
This is a story being written by the robot, but I also think the story of the robot is written by Zelu as well. Like, I think there is like a crossover here,
Yeah.
right? And I think that you're
But
seeing
I also think it's meant to be, we're both right, because that's what a
exactly,
death of the author to the audience is.
exactly. But it's like
Yeah.
it's like it's like to me, it's like you said, the ending is crazy, right? Where this billionaire is like, I've got magic injection that will let your baby live if you go into space.
Yeah. Me, a freshly postpartum,
Yeah.
I'm like, what
Yeah.
the heck is happening?
And just the amount of stuff, right, that happens to.
Well, also the final chapter, the chapter title is a hashtag.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also maybe like a play on a disaster that would happen. So I think it like, not the submarine that,
The Titan.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah.
like a play on that kind of thing, like a billionaire caused disaster, and
Mm-hmm.
how it becomes a hashtag.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like that's also a play on it, and it would make sense, right? Because AI learns from us, and so if we always associated disasters with hashtags before AI gets control of everything, right? This is what AI has learned. And additionally, books often end with like a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that this final chapter feels a mess because I think it is a mess. And I think you're right, Justin, because like an author struggles to get an ending.
Mm-hmm.
And if this AI is learning human stories, and that often human stories end in happiness, but also we use hashtags, but also we do this and also we do that,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to fall
Yeah.
apart at the end, because authors also struggle with killing their protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it doesn't make sense that she would be going into space with a baby.
Yeah. No, absolutely
She
not.
can't
It
even
doesn't.
drink coffee.
Yeah.
But honestly, throughout most of this book, Zelu. How do you actually say?
Zelu.
I
Because
think
you
it's
got
I think it's Zaylu because I listened to
Zelu.
part of the audio.
okay. So I
Yeah.
figured
Yeah,
Zelu.
yeah, Zaylu. Yeah,
She is a person that would 100% drink coffee while pregnant because she feels it's the right thing to do.
absolutely.
I found
Yes.
her to be wildly fucking obnoxious.
I
Like at the
agree.
beginning of the book, I was just like, yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board with
I
you.
get
Your family
it.
sucks. I understand. And then midway through the book, I'm like, like if you don't want to write the book, then you shouldn't have signed the contracts. Like they're pressuring you because you signed the contracts. And then at the end of the book, I'm like, I don't think I like you at all.
Yeah, when she decided to go to space, I was like, it's enough. Like I felt like I literally
How
felt like her
dare
mom.
anybody put shackles on me? I am going to go do whatever I want to do, and nothing will stop me,
Yeah.
including this unborn child I'm now carrying.
And like I totally get it because I think it's a discussion on like autonomy. And I think an AI would, like, if you look at it in retrospect, I think an AI would have, or robots in general, I'm speaking for them. But I think they
They're
would.
listening.
Well, they're always listening.
Yeah.
You have to be nice to them.
Yeah.
But I think in general, like, and if I had to think I'm an AI and of the future and I have thoughts of my own, I think the concept of autonomy would be very interesting to me. And if I'm
Right.
looking back at humans, I would be like, well, those who suffered are the ones that have disabilities, that weren't able to do things. So if I write a character who has disabilities, I would want to give them autonomy that I would have wanted to have if I was like that. I think that
Mhm.
that's in my, like, in my interpretation, that's how I would take it looking back. But while I was reading it and she kept doing things, I was like, girl, you just got kidnapped.
But I think part of my question is, and not that I definitely disagree with either of you on either any of these points, but
Mhm.
it's like, how much of our dislike of her is that she really just does whatever the fuck she wants, and it's
Yeah,
like, don't you kind of wish you could just do whatever the hell you wanted whenever you wanted to do it?
yeah,
Yeah, no, I get that.
Like I think that's part of it.
I do get that, but there is a way to do what you want and stuff like that, and then not come across like a spoiled bitch.
you're
Like
her
it.
older
Yeah, you're
siblings.
just like Chinyari or whatever.
Yeah,
Or
her family also sucks. Like in the beginning part of the book, I'm like, this family is ridiculous. Like you don't want her to walk. A lot of that struck too for me because my grandparents grew up deaf,
Mhm.
and the deaf community is like wildly protective of cochlear implants, where like,
Mhm.
well, there's something
Yeah.
wrong with you. You don't need to get that. Like you are how
Yeah.
God made you. Do you want to go against God? Like that all rang very true for me. And I'm like, these motherfucking people need to get
Yeah.
hit by an asteroid. The entire family needs to get taken out. But the more like it's just, it was a bit much.
Mhm.
Like it takes sympathy and then it goes too
Well,
far. Like you take your empathy and your sympathy for the character, and it feels like you get stretched too far. Like I said before, like she's like, well, I don't want to write the novel. It's like, well, all right, well then don't take the $1 million. Like you agreed to it, do it.
yeah.
Like
I think there's two things here. I I think in regards to like the conversation about her family, I wonder, because this was written post COVID, I wonder if there's some sort of commentary on people's like unwillingness to utilize like advancements in health, as we saw with the vaccine. And so I wonder if there's some sort of commentary there, rooting like traditionalism with a like lack in trust of scientific advancement. I think is potentially could be that as well. And then the taking of the money for writing a series, I think, is an all too common author, first time author problem. And that's why a lot of I'm talking just an experience of reading like a lot of YA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's an all too true experience. Like you have a really great first book, and then there's the second book slump that always sucks, and then the finale's like, okay, we don't really care about it at this point.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that both are potentially like just minor commentaries, but not really saying anything conclusive, but minor commentaries on like already normal problems of like the last
Well, and that's what this book
5
is, right? It's like
years.
a
Yeah.
soup of that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I think like that lends obviously to the idea of this being written, by like, chat GPT, you know,
Of the
1
future.
million, 1 million point oh, the fact
Yeah.
that like, oh, there are celebrities going to space and there are these like
Yeah.
crazy
Oh my God, how
robotic
fitting. Katy
advancements.
Perry.
I know. I'm like, people are definitely not going to like you after you go to space, if they don't like you now.
For 3 days.
Um, but I feel like a lot of stuff with the family too is a lot of that idea of like, look, and whether it be about someone who is differently abled or anything, or has a certain personality type or had a
Hmm.
certain lifestyle, you know, there comes a point where your family, I think, just goes like, this is who you are, and when you try to change that, they have a real big problem with it,
Yeah,
right?
look
Because
how annoyed we were. Like, imagine if that was
yeah.
your sister. Like,
And I will say, for the most part, we get that first chapter, right, which is like the first interview chapter where you kind of get, the sister's perspective of what it's like
yeah.
to have her as a sister,
Yeah, and I
right?
was like, oh my God, she hates her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
You know, uh, but other than that, like moment, right? We don't get a lot of, because most story is from Zelu's. We're not from her perspective, but we're kind of in her world, right? We're
yeah.
kind of meant to be taking her side or meant to be following her. We don't ever see that happen again, right? It's like once she is able to take that autonomous vehicle, it's like she doesn't need to call her sisters anymore or whatever. So we don't see her really being that kind of burden. The only burden we see her being is like, what you're doing is kind of upsetting us. So can you just stop doing it? Like that's a lot of what her family tells her,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
Bad
the the
family.
the reason why like she definitely is entitled at times and she definitely does stuff where it rubbed me the wrong way. But the reason I think I stayed sort of like not on her side but interested in her story was that most of the stuff she was doing, the only person it possibly would hurt was really her. You know what I mean? From a
Hmm.
and
Like physically.
physically, yes, of course. Emotionally, we're all tied to each other, and I think that's a lot too of what the sort of mirroring stories are about, right? This
Hmm.
idea of like, people not wanting you to change, people, people wanting you to stay in a certain box, and if you go outside that box, you're shunned, you're deleted, you're disassembled, whatever, and also how like, us not realizing everything we do sort of affects everyone else can cause ruinous consequences for things. But I also think it's interesting because what I really liked about the way the story was told was, you know, there wasn't a lot of wallowing in the, um, the injury or her being paralyzed. Her character wasn't like constantly swimming in that soup, and it wasn't a lot of like, it drove a lot of her personality because she wanted to transcend that. She wanted to be more,
Hmm.
but there wasn't a lot of like she feels really sorry for herself because of her injury type of
Yeah, I agree with
type of
that.
writing, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought was good. Um, and I thought the book leaving it open for you to not like her is something that I think 15 years ago would not have been in a novel, or it would not have been in because the fact you would make a differently able person sort of shitty and mean and nasty at times would have been something that people wouldn't have really touched because they would have felt this bad sense of like sorry for them, or like they're all just these beautiful warriors who are all beautiful souls. And I like that this book is not doing that with her, right? That
Yeah,
it's
more
being
of a
like,
real
this
character.
is just a
Yeah.
person, and yeah, she kind of sucks sometimes. Like, just like anybody else kind of
Yeah.
sucks sometimes, and I liked that about the character.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I wonder if part of that comes from like cuz now obviously like I'm thinking of the novel as written in the future past, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm sort of like, is it because an AI has learned that like we appreciate more real characters, or that like a novel feels real and that we can get lost in like the truthness of the story? So there's a part of me that wonders that as well. Because I can't help but like think of it as chat gpt like learning things
Mm-hmm.
and then creating something that it thinks we will like, because even the at the end you learn that Zelu is like an ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
So this story is still something that the AI has learned, and again, it's learning from stories of of this person as well.
Yeah.
So then it's like the accounts that you're getting do make this character feel more real because they're in concept coming from the family that was like, why do you always have to do things this way? So it's
Yeah.
like the image of Zelu is not going to be a perfect angel, right? Because
Hmm.
the idea the stories are coming from people who were around her, and I think maybe those what we thought were document like documentary chapters were really the files maybe that the AI
That's
was like
exactly
going
what I think
through.
it is. Because there's a reason why they specifically outline that reporter kept following her whole life, because obviously that's who the family is talking to in those like middle sections, interview sections. So this is why I'm saying,
Yeah,
because
or
he's
it's like a biography.
yeah, because Ankara says at the end, like, you know, Zelu was an astronaut, like that's what she calls her an astronaut. This great grandmother of Ngozi was an astronaut. And so I and they're all talking about on that thing like, oh, we always expected she would do something like this. I just wish she was here. And I think it's really trying to kind of trick you into being like, oh, she died in some horrible way, and these people are like, it's like a after her death sort of
Yeah,
interview series,
yeah,
and obviously
Well,
that's
the odd
not
part
what it
is
is.
the mom says, like, at the end of her chapter, you would have to ask her father,
Yeah,
and then her father dies like 5 chapters later,
yeah,
which I thought
mhm,
was a little interesting.
yeah,
yeah. I
um,
also think that the timeline is fucked because of this. Like I think again
but
looking
there's no
back.
interview with her father though, so it's
Exactly, but the like,
but I
oh, I
think
see, I see what you're
the
saying.
mother is saying like you would have to have asked her father, like
Yeah.
Gotcha.
her
Okay.
father is no longer here to answer those
Yes,
questions,
that
and I
makes
think
sense now.
that's what the interview is saying.
Hmm.
I take those interviews as those really happened. Like those are
Yeah, I
not
think
things
those are
that
like files.
yeah, those are not things that AI wrote. Those interviews happened. Like that's how she gathered the information on this real person and then turned them into a story. That's what I took that as. Because when she really mentions it, it's based on a real person. Like the name is the name of the great grandmother of the real woman that she met, right, in the last human person or whatever,
Yeah, Ngozi.
in Ngozi, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I took that part of it. Um, uh, and it's funny too because like even the part where you mentioned, Kelsey, thing about the movie, right, and how
Hmm.
all the names were changed and all the fan
Yeah.
fiction is written with the different names and stuff like that. So if that was a real thing that existed in 2024 or whatever, in the far distant past of these robots, right, that now rule the world, maybe what's the only thing that's left is this other version with the different names and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So even if it was sort of like this thing where this real woman wrote this book that really crazily mirrored what was going to happen to these robots in the future, because like they said, all of these robots and their programming and their societal structures and all that stuff come because of the humans that created them, right? And the information that they were fed when they were being created, right? And I think that's part of what the creation flows both way thing is, where it's like it very well could have been that somebody wrote this story and that story was fed into these databases, and when these robots kind of formed their society, it was just part of their base sort of programming and coding, right? That like
Hmm.
because they were taking in what humans had sort of spat out, right? A lot of stories about robots that do crazy shit. It was all over the stuff that we've written and
Yeah.
done, in our existence. So
And also that they would copy human dynamics
yeah,
as well.
exactly. Hmm.
Like you think, oh, they're like, oh, we're humans, they're AI. Well, we have to kill each other.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's just what it is. It's just what the
Hmm.
humans did, and that's what we
Yeah.
have to do. And so it kind of reminded me of like the Studio Ghibli thing that happened with AI, right? It's like it will only do things better the more that we use it, and I think this book becoming so big probably would have like a major impact, and we don't know if other books got written
Yeah.
either, right?
Right.
So because it's up in the air really if Zelu dies at the end. To me, it sort of felt like a rewritten ending because it's so happy.
Hmm.
Um, But
But
then
it's
yeah,
happy for the robots too. That's the thing too, right?
Yeah.
It's like happy for it's extremely tied up happy ending for the robots
Yes,
where at the
exactly.
very last second she figures out the way to save the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was also like, okay, she got $1 million for this. Like, I was like, that was predictable.
um
But then
I
the last chapter was like, oh,
yeah, there's a lot
okay, it makes
going
sense
on.
now.
There's a
Yeah.
lot going on in that last chapter.
Yeah. Um uh I will say, like, you know, I think that some of the chapters, especially the stuff around like her father's death and stuff like that, I thought they really got to me. Like that section I thought was really well written, and I think there was a lot of great stuff in here, you know, about are some of our favorite topics, like what it means to be a human being, what it means to live a life that you know is going to end, all of those kind of things, right? And also the ideas about like, well, but what if you are a being that has consciousness, but there is no end that you know of, right? And how does that affect how you sort of operate, right, in the world? And this idea of transcending your body and changing what your body is, and not being sort of penned in by, you know, what biology says you have to be, sort of thing. I think is all it's all mixed up in this soup of like, you know, human who was, you know, who didn't have the use of their legs might come up with, but also a robot whose identity and what it means to be a person is way different could also come up with, right? The other way around, the ping ponged way around, you know,
Yeah.
which I think is also interesting, right? And this idea that these, you know, these Humes were, they believe that having a body is the only way to exist, and these nobodies believe that not having a body is the only way to exist. You know, and the answer, of course, at the end is like you got to have a little bit of both of those, you know, perspectives in order for it to work, right? In order for it to save things. You know, and I think part of the reason why I guess I push a little bit back, and this is just a personal thing, on the idea that like it's just a big twist at the end that she wants to, like, you go, oh shit, I thought it was this was this and this was this, but they're actually flipped, is, you know, I think that part of her message is it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't actually matter which one was real and which one was fake, because it's all fake. You know, it's all a story.
It's all a book. Yeah,
It's all a
exactly.
book, right? So it doesn't matter really.
Yeah.
What
Like
you
even
think.
us talking about it is it's his own story.
Yeah, exactly. Like you know, you bringing yourself to it. So like, you know, it doesn't matter if you think Zelu was the real person and she wrote the robots, or the robots were real and they wrote Zelu. It doesn't actually matter, right? Because those scenes where the father dies, if you were to think of it very in a cold logical way and be like, well, that's not real, so I retroactively don't give a shit, right? But why not? Because if you were affected by it when you were reading it, that's the only thing that matters. It does not matter at the end if the author goes like, and guess what? She wasn't real. You know, that doesn't matter actually.
Because I've cried at plenty of fake things.
Yeah, exactly. It's all fake. You know, it's all fake. So what does it matter if this author is at the end? Guess what? You weren't really sure about which fake thing was the more fake. You know,
Yeah,
like that's kind of
exactly.
what I think the story is trying to tell you in some ways, right? Which I think is great. I mean, I that's why I really enjoyed it, because I think
It's very meta.
she's too smart of a writer. I feel like, just for reading this one book, for it to be that simple of a like a twist, you know.
I personally really like Nadia Korafor.
Mhm.
I've read several books from her, and they always slap. So I would recommend her just in general.
She's got a show coming. They're making a show of one of her books, right, on HBO, I think.
Which Binti?
I don't-
Because I'll scream.
I don't know. George R. R. Martin is working with her on
Of
it.
course, he has plenty of time to do everything else.
No, Who Fears Death is the book
Oh,
that
Who Fears Death? Yes, yes, yes.
they're turning into an HBO show.
Yes, I have to read that one. I wanted to read it. I think I have it actually.
But yeah, I was really impressed by the writing.
He even wrote on. He even had his little.
This one's
like-
got it all. Is what he said at the top. What a fucking quote! Like, come on, George. You could
George.
stretch a little bit more. Your quote, from
George.
Outlet.
You're not busy enough to not write a full fucking thing.
He's opening like restaurants in Santa Fe. Anything
No.
he can do to not write that last book or that
It's not
next book.
it's
It's
not
not
the
the
last.
last.
It's not the
the
last
next
book.
I'm sorry, the next book. I'm sorry.
When's a winner over here is a little upset.
He's probably like, I love the part where the character wouldn't write the book. I loved that part of your book.
I love the part where she's struggling.
Yeah, that she went to space instead of writing the fucking book.
It's real simple for him. Do the exact opposite of what the show did.
Yeah.
Profit.
But you know what? Actually, just thinking about that, like, imagine being her fan. It just clicked in my head. Like, I'm thinking of this is how I see George R. R. Martin, right? I'm like, Jesus Lord, could you just? We know what happens. We know the story beats. I know Sansa becomes the Queen of the North. Like, I know all the actual story beats. Just fill it in, please. I'm begging. Get a ghostwriter. Do something.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be Brando Sando.
It's
gonna be Brando Sando
1,000%
for sure.
And honestly, I feel like this is the best case scenario.
I just never forget. Like, I don't know what it was. It got to be almost 10 years ago at this point. Maybe probably
Guys,
10 years ago at this
the
point.
first book came out when I was born.
Yeah, no,
Well,
but I'm just saying.
I have a child.
I
There
read
was
I read Dance with Dragons when Jorah was 6 months old.
Yeah, because it was what 2011.
Yeah. And
Yeah, like I just
Jorah's
graduated high
13.
school.
Jorah's 13
Yeah,
next
like-
month.
Yeah, so like, but like, I think it was like 10 or 12 years ago. He did like a authors on authors thing with Stephen King, right? And
What a duality.
Oh, I know
talking to
what
each
Bobby's
other.
gonna say. Yeah.
And George R. R. Martin says,
It's
to
like,
him,
how
he's
do
like,
you write so many
I don't
books?
understand how you write so many books. And he goes, George, it's not that hard. You just sit down and you write the book. That's what he basically says to him. You just sit down and you write it. Like, that's what you do.
George read this book and he's like, relatable.
Well, I will. All these crazy people keep asking me for this book. How dare they?
The fan part, he's like, oof, I've seen worse.
Yeah, definitely seen worse. It's only been like 2 years. I
He's
mean,
like-
you know, it's been like 2 or 3 years since she wrote the first book came out. Like, it's nothing comparatively.
The story changes from what she wanted. He's like,
Yeah.
relatable. I get
Yeah.
it.
The movie fucked it up. I get it. You know, I know what it's like.
I know what this book is my stamp of approval.
It's got it all.
He's right. This one has it all.
This one has it all. You know.
Which I like we're talking about that, but I actually find that really funny because I think Game of Thrones is also another example of the death of the author, right? Like people are so fed up that they don't even care. Like, they're
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, but the difference is
just
people
give it
want to
to us.
kill George R. R. Martin. That's why we call it Death of the Author for him. They're like, you're never gonna finish this. Die. Get out of the way and let
It's
somebody else finish this.
It's kind of like when you have theories and they become so much better than like what the actual like I see this
Mhm.
a lot with Yellow Jackets. Like the theories that the Yellow Jackets Reddit has far superior than what the show
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
where it's going, you know? And you're like, oh, it really does get out of a writer's hands if they don't write fast enough. And it's not like theories or like I'm not shitting on fan fiction, but it's not like they're at par with the author's writing, right? Of their
Right.
own personal writing. But it's just like because these things can be written quicker, because obviously there's no like self-critique, there's no
Mhm.
worrying about reviews and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But these things get written quicker and people are like, oh, that's a really good idea, actually. So
Yeah.
when the thing doesn't actually perform in the way that the fans have made it seem, that's another form of death of the author. And I think Game of Thrones got that like doubly, right? Because it's the end of the show writers had nothing to work with and they're like, oh, we're not actually good writers. That's crazy.
Yeah. Guys, everybody's gonna find out our secret.
And
We
then
suck.
George is like, well, these things happen.
Mhm.
And then they're like, yeah, but we don't know how to get there.
But also, I've had some of the conversation was like, yeah, but George, how does it get from where we are to what you're
No, he
talking
doesn't know.
about? And he's like, I don't know. I just know that's going to be the end.
Yeah.
So,
Like the last thing that I remember that happened in Game of Thrones is Jon Snow dies. And like that happens like so early in the show after.
it does happen
remember-
It happens
I
like
remember
season
telling
4,
people,
I think.
yeah,
of
I
the show.
remember telling people like this is where the books end.
Yeah.
And people are like, what?
Yeah. Oops.
I'm like, we don't even know who Jon Snow is in the books. Like, if
And
you
those
just
guys
read
were probably like, guys, we gave ourselves so much time. It's going to take at least 6 years of actual real world time before we even get to whatever the next book would be. It'll be out.
no
It'll
problem.
be out so long. Everyone read it 3 times by the time we get to that. He's like, what if I take 16 years to tell people I'm still working on it?
Anyways, Brandon Sanderson will fix it. It's okay.
Um,
But and then again, it's like another author has to come in for the death of the author,
yeah,
both figuratively and maybe
literally.
really.
Justin, you were saying though you really loved the sci-fi like sections, right?
I did, yeah. I thought the actual story that she was spinning was like up, because I take things so fucking literally. You guys talking about death of the author, and I'm like, oh, this is another one of these shows where I don't have anything. I don't have anything to
I have
add.
an English degree. It's only because I have an English.
Yeah, I know.
Kelsey and
It's
I
like,
were
God damn it,
forced
it was
to talk
here's the
about
thing.
this stuff.
I can't
I
not read a
know,
book and
but-
not look for these things.
I know, but when you guys pick books, I'm like, ah, fuck. So I wanted to pick like a good sci-fi story. It's like, let's read some good sci-fi where I don't have to worry about what the author is secretly telling me on the last page of the book. Only if you flip it upside down and read it from the middle outwards. But yeah, I liked the sci-fi story with the robots. I was enjoying the robot story.
Yeah. I liked the big spider robot. The concept of that was really cool. The one that like built itself into a giant spider who like, weaved stories.
I like that too, and I liked even how in the chapter, the robot was like, or the Hume, sorry, was like, like we always pick humanoid versions of ourselves, but we can really be anything. And I was like,
Yeah.
I did think that was
"Very
interesting.
sweet." Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
book could have been about that, and I would have enjoyed it probably more.
But you know what? Sometimes like what authors end up doing is like when people actually like the like made up thing that they've written and they add to their book, they like just make that book again. And I'm kind of hoping like
Yeah.
maybe that happens.
Well,
I
I
like
guess,
when
like,
authors do that.
We were getting towards the end of the book, and obviously so much happens like in the last like 20
Yeah.
pages of the book. I was like, is there like another book? Like,
I
'cause I
was wondering that too, because we were all of a sudden it was like go 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 go.
She's going to space. She's pregnant. The robot.
Yeah. I'm like, your boyfriend should be mad at you.
Husband.
Oh, they did get
No,
married.
they did get married. That's right.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I would be upset too.
Yeah.
It's like, but how could you be upset about this?
Well, she did. Well, I would say, to be fair, in that moment, she was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't really think about asking
His
the most
feelings.
important person
She
in
literally
my
said,
life."
I didn't think about his feelings.
Yeah. I was telling Justin, it does remind me a little bit of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and in some parts, this sort of like,
I do think that's why we all liked it.
yeah, this like transcending of
Yeah.
the character who needs their body to be transcended, and this idea of creating this world, and sort of like the creation and the person, sort of where do they one end and one begin, sort of thing. I thought was all there. The point where I thought somebody was gonna die because it just like the story was really pushing it that way,
Yeah. Well, even just to talk about another like addition of AI is also the like app that her husband creates.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like Alexa or Siri.
Yeah.
And then so
exactly.
when I thought I was like, oh, this is the chapter that she dies. Like
Mhm.
her mom was right the whole time. She was gonna get
Mhm.
kidnapped. She should have
Mhm.
listened. And then there's like this I guess like meta commentary on like a Siri having a Siri and that Siri being able to save you.
And live
It was like
stream you being
yeah,
kidnapped
it was like
to the
it was
world.
futuristic enough that we can grasp it.
You could absolutely do that. I don't. What are you guys even rolling your eyes about? I could go, "Hey Siri,
No.
start a Facebook Live right now," and it would
Absolutely.
do
No,
it.
I'm not rolling
You
my
know?
eyes at that. I'm
Yeah,
just rolling
no.
my eyes about her
The scenario.
that whole scenario
Yeah,
where
but
she was
Justin,
like,
people
"How is
use
this happening?"
ChatGPT but people use ChatGPT as a therapist. Like
I know,
it's
no, I'm not
it's
talking
not
about the
that-
technology
yeah.
part. I know
Yeah.
the technology exists
no,
now.
but I mean like
It's-
people would do it because the people use
Yeah,
ChatGPT
people
as like
definitely
a
do it.
therapist.
I mean, but you do know that we really want 15 AI friends rather than 15 friends.
Okay, the other
Yeah.
day I was on Instagram and I was like, "What's this button?" And I clicked on it and it's like, "Do you want to chat with AI?" I was like, "No. Why
don't
would I
do that
want
shit.
that? I have
I-
friends."
I feel bad for the people who need to do that in
I
order to
know.
feel like they have somebody to talk to. It's very sad.
And it's like that's the thing, right? Because in you're like,
I
okay,
don't
like
want 15
they need
friends.
someone to
It's
talk
too
to, you
many.
know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Talk
you're
to a
like, yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah, kind of like.
Or you call like a, like go on like a.
Hi, Jorah.
Hi, Jora.
I
Oh
forgot
my
to
god, he's
knock.
so big.
I forgot to knock. Sorry.
It's okay. I'll catch up with you in a little bit.
He looks exactly like you.
He does. He
Oh
actually
my
Yeah,
looks
god,
like
that was crazy.
Karen screenshotted a picture and like a Facebook picture and sent it to me. She's like, somebody looks like their dad.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
he actually looks 1,000 times more like my dad.
Oh,
I have a
yeah,
picture
yeah.
I can show you guys later. It's of the two of them like side by side, not similar ages, but my dad very young. And it's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's literally you but blonde.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. Like I felt like
I
I was.
I was blonde. So when I was his age,
Yeah,
I had
there you go.
golden blonde hair.
Yeah,
Well, he's got the because Ange is blonde, right? So he got the
Yeah,
hope that he
exactly.
can
So
keep
you
that
get-
blonde hair and
he
be
got
a
he got the
unique boy.
gene.
Yeah.
Even like my son. My son. It's so weird to say. My son too. He has like really light brownish hair, but it's kind of blonde. And both Carmen and I have like blonde parents and then blonde siblings. So we're like, it was bound
Oh,
to happen. It
I
was
don't
bound.
know if it will. No, it won't.
It's tough. I mean, I can see it a little bit. Oh,
I
you
can see it
definitely
a little
I
bit,
can see.
yeah.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Why
Those
does
are
that
your
picture of your
genes.
son look like he's in Twilight?
He was at a museum. He was at the Museum of Illusion today, but it does look like Twilight. You're right. He's got to go say Bella.
He's gotta go say Bella's gonna run up the
Where
trees.
you been, Loca?
um. I liked, but I will say, like, and I don't know if like this idea of like I haven't read obviously hadn't read any of these other books by the author. So are the other books sci-fi at all?
Absolutely.
They
This
are,
I think
okay.
this is her most
Okay.
literary.
Okay.
And I almost would argue like it's her least sci-fi until the end. Like
Okay.
the whole time I was like, this is oh my god, this is her first foray into literary fiction. Wow. Da, 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 da. And then at
Like,
the end,
why
I
did
was like,
Justin pick this?
at the end, I'm like, it's been science fiction the whole time. But it's her most like literary, I would say. And her other ones are definitely more I would, you know what I would think of Rusted Robots? That's more,
That's more or less what she writes.
yeah,
Yeah, I
very,
read some of the synopsises of her other books.
yeah,
Okay.
like very Nigerian culture based, Afro sci-fi type of vibes. That's what it is. And Binti's a series of novellas, so it's very easy to get through as well because they're all like about 100 pages. It's like a very contained series. But I
So
I just love her. Oh my
we've
god,
done Afro
Siri,
sci-fi.
Siri is
Mhm.
awake.
We've done Afro fantasy.
Fantasy, we have.
Yes, yeah.
We need to complete the trifecta and do horror.
Yeah. After
Yeah.
horror. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say, one thing I really. They talked about the food so much that I was like, I need to
Yeah.
look up what this food is. I read it and I was like, I
Mhm.
want to eat this right now. That's how I felt when I read the description of what the jollof rice
Mhm.
was.
I
Yeah.
think I just want to bring this up really quickly.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of the book, or one of my favorite parts of the book, is after she like bombs on the interview,
Mm-hmm.
and her husband takes her on like the road trip to these people's houses, and
Yeah.
I forget the other woman's name, who was just slamming her left and right, like
Yeah.
in like a positive way, like I want to help
for
you, but
sure.
it's like,
Yeah.
are you done feeling sorry for yourself?
Yeah,
I was like,
I like that too. She had like a name that was like a noun, right? It was like not a
Wind.
Wind.
No.
It was yeah, I think it was wind.
Was it
I think it was
wind?
wind. I think it was
Yeah.
wind. Yeah, I think it was wind.
It's
I
like in
liked
the
that
top.
too.
Yeah, it was basically like in the last Mission Impossible movie. She basically said, "You need to get off the internet.
Yeah, basically.
You're on the internet too much."
Yeah, she's like, what the hell's wrong? Like, I like when she was like, yeah, boo hoo! Like, you're a millionaire.
Yeah, and she was
Who
like,
gives a
I hate
shit?
this woman.
Yeah, I hate this woman.
It's like when Bobby brings out my faults, and I'm like, I hate him. He's right.
Yeah. No, that's literally me. Like when someone critiques me, I'm like,
Oh, wait, how dare you?
I just met you tonight. Relax.
You don't know my life, all right?
You don't know me.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, she's cooking her favorite meal.
yeah, I know. She's cooking her totally favorite meal.
Yeah, like there's, and that's another thing. There's like so many things in here that I'm like, I feel like I need to reread it, knowing the ending,
Mhm.
and then seeing if there's any um, like mistakes,
Mhm.
or like faults in the
So I
narrative that don't
think
make sense, you
I
know?
found this is going to sound so strange, but there are moments when Zelu is talking that it seems like she's being written by somebody else. Like,
Well, she was.
no, but like my point is like smart cutting dialogue, and then all of a sudden it was like for like 3 sentences it was like somebody else completely was writing that character because they
But
said something
that's what
that
I mean.
didn't fit
Yeah.
in at all of a sudden Zelu was trying to tell a bad joke or something that like doesn't
That's what I
land,
mean.
and I was just
Yeah,
like,
I'm curious if like there is something in there that like will catch only on a second read, because
Mhm.
I'm sure that like what you're saying, Justin, like if we were to put like a keen eye, it could be interpreted as like these were actual conversations that maybe were pulled, and then there's like a chat GPT
I,
of like trying to fill in that
she
way of
it's when she's
speaking.
first putting on the exo. She has this, I can't remember if it was an internal
Oh
or
yeah,
external
like
monologue
that
where she
poetry.
makes
Yeah.
Mhm.
no, not the poetry thing. She says something and then she laughs to herself, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this does not fit in with any of the other writing in this chapter.
Okay.
Mhm.
Like it is like I tried to write something that she was saying.
Okay.
It would stick out like a sore thumb,
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
and then it
that's
would
it. Yeah.
immediately go right back to like this is clever writing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm very curious about like cuz like I was trying to tell this to the youths because now I'm an elder, and I was like, you can tell when an email is written by ChatGPT. Like I'm like
Yeah.
it all sounds the same, and they're like, no, you absolutely can't. And I'm like, guys, I'm sorry to break it to you, like you definitely
El-
can.
Please let Elder Kelsey
Yeah.
I was like,
tell you
guys,
what's
come on,
going on, and
guys,
then
I've
when
been
you're
there. Okay.
done, let the ancients Justin and Bobby really.
We're all like the old uncle who doesn't wear a shirt and has the one patch of like white chest hair who just comes out of the woods and is like, hey,
Hey,
you're not real. You're broken. Get
Yeah,
out of
but
here.
like it has a tone. AI just has a tone. It's like
Yeah, of
very
course.
overly polite. It's like that is such an interesting question to ask me,
Yeah.
and there's like a bunch of exclamation marks. And you're
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah.
so. I just feel like maybe upon reread, like there's little things that maybe Nedia Corfor added to like
Yeah.
make fun of that a bit. That like maybe in the moment, Justin, you picked them up because you're like, that's weird. That sounds
Uh-huh.
weird. That doesn't fit in.
yeah.
And like obviously me at 3x speed, I wouldn't have picked up on that change of tone. But like I'm curious if I would reread it and like highlight and actually like listen to the inflections and stuff, like if I would pick up on that, because I'm
Yeah.
sure like even the audiobook narrators were probably, because they're like we're probably given like moments to.
Hmm. But I think also, I think she would probably say, right, if you like were to ask her this question, right, it's like, yeah,
It's
but
up to us.
it's up to you, but it's also like sometimes you're reading a book and that happens anyway, right? It's
Mm,
just like sometimes the author loses grip a little bit
Yeah,
on
no,
mm.
totally.
a paragraph or a sentence, or things seem too
Yeah, but I just trust her.
convenient or whatever, and it's just sort of like that's kind of what writing can be sometimes. Like
Oh,
the fact that there are like two magical rich white dudes who are perfectly benevolent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
like
like
just that's what I'm saying. Like there's so many things that I'm like,
it's
doesn't
definitely
make
somebody messing with the
sense.
background code of the Chat GPT,
It's
being
like
like, no, no, no,
ChatGPT was
no.
like Elon
Billionaires are
Musk.
nice.
Elon Musk. Elon Musk created us.
Yeah, they make special baby saving tardigrade injections for astronauts. Like she's like, I'm having a baby, I can't do it. And he's like, yeah, you can. I have a
He's
special
like,
shot I can give you.
listen, I never told the rest of the world.
Yeah, I never told the other astronauts because I don't want to deal with the legal trouble. But
with you,
with you, I just give you this shit.
what a book.
But I also think it's a little bit a commentary on like how this woman who came from very humble beginnings, right? How the internet and the world can kind of warp your brain so much that you can identify more with this like multi-billionaire like alien person basically than you
Hmm.
can with normal people anymore, right?
Hmm.
I think it definitely happens because
Well,
there's a
and
lot of
also the what money does as well.
yeah, absolutely. But I
Like
think
put
that's
you
part of it,
into a
right?
different, yeah, a
Yeah,
different bracket.
and being like the thing where like I think it's a very common thing we can very identify now, which is that these people who you once enjoyed or liked or whatever, when too many people are kind of mean to them on the internet, all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I hate trans people. You know what I mean?
Well, I
It's
mean,
like-
the fall of the United States of America is because of that.
Exactly. I'm saying exactly. It's like, I'm sorry that
We
you
bullied
know,
Elon Musk a little too much. He's
I'm
like,
sorry,
okay, well,
liberals
you know
were a
what?
little angry that you didn't do this, and were scoldy that you used the wrong pronoun. But now you
my
don't, didn't mean you have to
God.
destroy the country over it. Like, but that's what it feels like a little bit, right? Is this sort of like brain rot
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
being sort of communicated, right? That these people who,
Thought the liberals' only source of information sharing.
But it's true that people who are oftentimes, sometimes creative, sometimes people who are athletes, that they, in order to do what they do, they need to have so much, both crazy faith in their instincts, and also this what they think is like a healthy amount of like questioning things.
Well, they need an ego.
A huge ego as well, but that can get warped so easily, right? It can get turned on you so easily that I think that happens to so many people, right? These people who are just like, and we there's so much exposure and so much attention now on every single, like, even micro famous person, that I think it often rots their brains out of their skulls.
Yeah.
What this happens, right?
Yeah. And I think just brain rot in general.
Yeah.
Like, I think just being too connected to technology, I
yes.
think is also is a very common theme in
Mhm.
sci-fi.
But
Arguably
it feels
the
much more real
most,
now than it used to. Because it
It's-
used to be like, oh, we can't. We're gonna turn into robots if we keep putting prosthetic limbs on. Like, that was like the 70s, and now it's
Yeah.
like. No, it's like no, you don't understand. It's so much worse than what you thought it was
It's-
gonna be. And it
I
got
saw
there
a
so
tweet
much
where
faster.
it was I saw a tweet where it was like future when I was a kid, flying
Yeah.
cars. Future now, and it's like a black screen. Like, just the death of humanity.
Oh boy.
It's so bleak. But it's like, yeah, it makes sense that in Rusted Robots they would all be gone. Like,
Yeah.
for sure.
And they were like, oh, at the end they tried to turn to automation, but it was way too late or whatever, or they were wrong about what they were doing. I was like, yep, I gotcha.
yep, history repeats itself. We never learn.
We never learn. It is what it is. What'd you just grab, Justin?
Speaking of bleak things, I was grabbing our next book.
Excuse me,
Okay,
it's
are
my
you-
pick. I'm the one who's supposed to
Are you
announce
done?
it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hold on, let me
Please.
grab it too. We all bought it.
This might be the first time we've ever all had the hard copy.
That's not the first time.
I don't think
no.
so.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
What other book do? What other book?
I don't remember. I don't think
Because there
so.
wasn't one. Oh, we might have all had nestlings.
Yeah.
We all had nestlings. Yeah. Did we all have all this and more?
I do.
I did.
I did.
Okay, so
All
you
right,
did.
we do it
You
more
see,
often.
Justin?
How
Well,
dare
Kelsey
I?
and I always have it. Let's be
Yeah,
I know.
I have a problem.
We know Kelsey has a problem. I just don't have that much bookshelf space, especially because I just bought 7
Oh,
books.
Justin, I don't either.
Yeah, we know
Neither
you
do
don't.
I read it, and then if I don't really love it, I just donate it.
Donate
Me
it.
too.
Yeah.
Say, I have a whole bag next to me.
So please tell us what our next book is.
The Devils by Joe Abercrombie.
One of the
Um,
hardest hardcovers to get right now.
Is it
It's pretty-
actually?
Hey,
I had to
Barnes and
cancel
Noble.
my- I had
Barnes
to
and
cancel
Noble
my pre-order.
they're still like, we'll let you know when it comes in. It's like, okay,
Me too. So I canceled it, and I had to buy it.
I bought it off
I
Amazon.
had to supply.
It's a very nice hardcover. It's got beautiful, like,
It's so
art
hopeful.
inside of it. Yeah, I know. You all are the ones who get freaked out by the religious shit.
I don't. Not anymore.
No,
Kelsey
I-
still does.
I like it though.
Oh.
I know, but I'm saying.
Okay. Like literally, I saw this, I gasped. I was like, you know what? Listen,
Sacrilegious.
Do I hate Catholicism? Yes, but do I think we have the most bawling imagery?
It's good
Have you
imagery.
ever seen witness
Absolutely.
imagery? My God. You
No,
can
we're
find
not
it on the internet. Something's on it.
Have you ever been in a church?
Yes,
We're
I
not
have
allowed
been
to
in a
see it.
church.
In the-
Should I read the synopsis?
Please do.
Please go ahead.
All right, I'm going to start with the tagline, which I think is very good. Holy work sometimes requires unholy deeds. Brother Diaz has been summoned to the sacred city, where he is certain a commendation and grand holy assignment awaits him. But his new flock is made up of unrepentant murderers, practitioners of ghastly magic, and outright monsters. The mission he is tasked with will require bloody measures from them all in order to achieve its righteous ends. Elves lurk at our borders and hunger for our flesh, while greedy princes care for nothing but their own ambition and comfort. With an epic, hellish journey before him, it's a good thing Brother Diaz has the devils on his side.
I love
What
it.
does that mean? Zero idea.
No idea.
I've never read any Joe Abercrombie. Have you, Kelsey?
Nope. I'm breaking my thing where I have to read them in publication order.
Oh,
I
thank God.
decided because I decided because this is unrelated to his other works.
Yeah, it's completely
It's a
unrelated.
safe space to start. And
I don't know if this is a safe space, but continue.
well, I just meant like
I know.
I don't have to worry about it.
I don't think you ever have to worry about it. You
Yes,
just
you
choose
actually,
to.
you actually don't have to worry about it, but you just have convinced yourself that you have to
Sometimes
worry
you do.
about it.
It's Brandon Sanderson. It's his fault.
Yeah, but it's like the one. So, I was interested in that previous trilogy that he had written, the Blade itself.
Yeah,
I have it.
Before They're Hanged, The Last Argument of Kings.
We could have read it, and I could have not bought the book.
we could have.
We could have, but that was starting a whole new. I don't. This will be a series because it does say when you buy it, it says
okay.
like one
All
Okay,
books
I
are
looked it
series
up.
now.
I looked it up, but it seems to only be one.
right now.
We'll have to wait and see how it
we'll see.
ends.
Yeah,
It
we'll
said book when you look at it online.
Yeah,
it says
yeah,
book
yeah,
one.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
100%.
so, but it's only book that's out right now. So
Yeah.
I won't have to think about like, oh, but there are two other ones after we read this one, and how do they relate to this one? And
Yeah.
would my opinions change if I read all three?
We
And I'll
could
have to
also
worry
now
about
because we started it here,
that. Mhm.
we could continue it
We could.
because now we're not like, did you guys read book 1 and 2? Because now we
Yeah,
read number
exactly.
3.
And one
do
day
we
we'll read
play-
that third Rage of Dragons book. Whenever
I'm gonna
that-
need a
You guys
we're gonna
can.
need a recap. Oh, Kelsey,
You
you're
guys
reading it.
can.
It's 100% gonna be the pick.
I
because we've
haven't
read the first
second
two.
one.
You can read the second one.
Oh,
read the
Jesus
second
Christ.
Just read the second one, Kelsey.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine.
But also, do we just play it safe and say that we'll talk about this at the end of July?
I could-
Probably.
I mean,
at the
I could
end
I
of
could have it.
July.
I could have it done by the I could have it
You're
done. We
not
could do
the problem. I'm the problem.
Well, you tell me what's safe for you.
well,
Kelsey.
just listen to 4 times speed then, Kelsey.
It's not that. It's just that like I got okay. You know what? We're gonna say it's a month because last time it was just because of my Hunger Games vlog. It really took me a really long time.
Yeah,
That was the
I mean, it's
issue.
the end of June, right? Not
Okay,
the end of July.
End of June. End of June.
End of July would be crazy.
Okay, end of June. I'll do it.
That means I'm not reading it until the last week of July.
I'm
No,
in the.
it's my fault. It's my fault.
I mean, I'll take a break from my 7 book saga.
You
Okay,
ordered all the
Mr.
Dungeon
Reader.
Crawler Carl.
I
books,
ordered
right?
all the Dungeon Crawler Carl books.
I have a vlog coming out where I have it.
I am interested in your thoughts.
Kelsey and I argued via private Instagram message about the last Hunger Games book being any good.
Huh.
No, Mockingjay, not the last Hunger Games book. Last Hunger
Sorry,
Games
the
book
last,
is-
the last of the
Sunrise on
original
the Reaping.
3.
Yeah.
Those are 2 are prequels, right?
Yeah, no, but the last one, it could be the last published.
You know what I'm talking about.
I knew.
We were having the conversation.
I'm
Wait,
saying
like
them.
the end of the Hunger Games trilogy, that last book?
Yeah, fantastic.
It's
It's the best.
By
one.
far the worst book in the
It's
series.
my favorite one.
By far the
think-
worst book in a
No, it
mediocre
talks about
written series.
PTSD. It
Oh,
talks about
so original.
warfare.
Mm.
Talks about PTSD and warfare. I've never seen that in a book before.
You mean somebody close to the main character dies? You're telling me now for the
You're
first time.
spoiling.
I didn't say who dies.
The second one is the best book.
I don't
This-
remember
okay,
any of the books.
The second one is a good book. I just think the last book is my personal.
In what
favorites.
world is the last book in a trilogy ever the best one, or the last?
Many
Is it-
times.
Is there a movie series where the trilogy is the end of the trilogy is the best movie?
Yeah.
In a movie
Twilight.
series?
Ooh,
That's not
you know
3
what?
movies. That's
Yeah.
5 movies.
No. I'm talking about
An insane-
in
That was
in
a
no
wild last
in a
movie.
trilogy is the last movie ever the best one?
Yes, Mockingjay.
Okay, ignoring
also,
her.
oddly, the fucking fourth movie because they were insane and split that.
Yeah,
into
but that
two
was
books.
but the Twilight 2 had to deal with that. It was because they were in a
I
Deathly
guess
Hollows was
Return of the
two-part.
King,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yes, like
No,
it's
Return of the King
there's-
is not the best of the Lord of the Rings movies. No way.
Which is the best one?
The first one is the best one.
Fellowship. I
There's no
think
doubt-
the second.
there's
I think
no
the second
doubt.
one is the best one.
I
I
actually
will-
like
I
Two
will-
Towers.
Entertain.
The Two Towers.
I will
is-
entertain the opinion that people you would think that Two Towers is the best one because it's great. I think Fellowship
Yeah.
is the best one. I do not think Return of the King is in that conversation, even though I also think it's a fantastic 5-star movie. I just think it's not in that conversation
Hmm.
for the best one.
My Darker Shade of Magic. The last book is really good. Anyways,
I still have to read those.
She had a new book coming out, right? Or
yes,
Yeah.
For
yeah, yeah.
the Midnight Soil.
It's one of the Book of the Month Club books this month.
Get it.
I'm not no longer a member.
I'm part of Aardvark.
Too many months of it me being like I don't want any of these.
Yeah, I know, that was the problem with it.
You know,
Yeah, I'm doing a book box now. I joined one. I'm gonna see how I feel about it.
with Aardvark.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what on the Book of the Month Reddit. Everyone's like, I'm just happy with my Aardvark. Like that's what everyone. They're all like,
Literally, that's what
angry.
happened. People are like, if you don't like Book of the Month, go for Aardvark. I was like, oh, don't mind if I do.
Yeah.
And they ship to Canada free.
There was just a couple months, like it was. I had a pretty good thing where it was like every other month there would at least be one book that I like wanted, and then there was like a 4-month period where I was like, I don't want any of these books.
Yeah.
So I would just keep delaying my credit until a book showed up that I wanted.
Yeah.
So
I was a little bit worried at the end. I was like, oh my god, the tariffs. I really hope I don't have to pay that. And then it came to me tariff free. I was like, yay, keeping it.
I think shipments under a certain amount of money are free of the tariffs.
That's what I learned.
Yes.
But I will tell you, I had a panic attack about it. I have to go.
Okay.
So we will end this here. The Devils. I promise I'll read it this month.
Okay. I
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you, Justin.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Kelsey.
And thank you, everyone, for coming.